Huh? You say live. Alright, so it's live. Alright. I'm such an expert at this, I gotta tell you. Cool. Hey everybody. So this is where I, make parts for all sorts of things, not just for cutter heads, but all sorts of stuff. I haven't really done a whole lot of setup right now. All I really did was take the cover off of this guy, and I filled up my air compressor. I have a very small air compressor, so I'm going to have to be real frugal about using that right now. So that's annoying. Anyway, so what I'll be doing today won't make a lot of mess, so it shouldn't really, it doesn't really matter whether I've got a lot of compressed air or not. Before you do anything, always wear, eye protection. So definitely never ever do machining without wearing some sort of eye protection, right? Also, don't do machining wearing long sleeves or a scarf of any kind. Any loose fabric or material that can get caught on this guy is a problem, right? So I'm going to try to see if I can see what you guys are seeing. Let me get a little closer. And of course I'm going to have to move this around a bunch as I'm doing this, because I can't have it necessarily. Oh, maybe I can have it there. So what I was saying was, anything that gets caught up on this spindle would just pull you right into the machine, and you would definitely be hurt. One way or another, you would definitely be hurt. So I've had this guy for a while. I actually want to replace it, just because it's the machine that I learned on, and I sort of beat up on it a bit. However, I have replaced a lot of parts on it, so the things that I really messed up, have been changed out. I just want a bigger lathe, to be honest with you. I want one that's a little bit larger, I think. I've graduated. I also wouldn't mind just having two. That would be cool. Have one set up for one type of work and another one set up for a different type of work. That would be handy. So I'm gonna really quick run the vacuum. So that's gonna make a bunch of noise. I haven't done anything over here for a little while, so it's a little dusty, but that's okay. On the surface, the lathe itself has been sitting covered, so it has been protected. So the thing that I just moved, let me see if that's even in frame here. Okay, it is. This is the tailstock, and you can mount various things in the tailstock. So there are different types of tapers. You'll either see them fully written out, their full name, or like an abbreviation. So, Morse taper, or MT, that's a pretty common one. So there's a 3 or 2. This one would go into this end, and these that I have can go in the other, into the tailstock. And what that is for, what the function of one of these is is, it's what's called, so there's a live center and a dead center. Live ones actually spin. I've got my live one in here. And what you would do is you would tap a hole in the end of some piece of material, some piece of work, some piece of rod or whatever, and you would use a specialized tip to do that. So let me grab mine. Come here, you. So these are called center taps, and there are various sizes to them. And if you want to make a really nice, accurate hole, do some drilling or whatever, and so I'm out 3 different of center taps. And again, they make tapered holes perfect that are drilling out an operation, or to use one of these guys, like a live center. So you could get the tailstock up and insert this into that hole, and that way you can have this thing spin the work, and the work will spin inside of here, and you'll have 2 points at which you are holding it. And that's important if you're going to start to do some sort of a an operation where you're taking material off lengthwise. That if you're working with a long enough piece of material, you need support on both sides. And so that's one of the functions of these guys. Another function would be for actually making sure that things are aligned. So you can make sure that when you mount a tool, so this is what's called system, and these are X, I believe, which is smallest. This is actually a clone of a C3, zero, and then there's a tool insert, right? So there's a thing that screws in right there to the tip of this other metal piece. So sometimes those are permanently connected. So for instance, you can buy really cheap sets of tools like this for these lathes, and you can't change that out. This is brazed, is what that's called. This is permanently connected to the other piece of metal. So when these wear, you either have to regrind them or get rid of it, get new ones. Now, like I said, these are very cheap, so, but I don't actually like to use those. These cut really, really nicely, and when you get a fresh insert, it's got 3 points to it, so you can rotate it after one of the points dulls and have a fresh point, and go through that 3 times, or 3 total times with 2 rotations, and then you would get a new insert. And they're not that expensive. It's a lot less expensive than buying a whole new tool every time. Typically, if you're good with your tooling, then you can make them last a long time. And if you've got your lathe set up appropriately, again, you can make it last a long time. So right now, I would have to fully extend the this guy to get it anywhere near the tool. I could also, bring this closer, right? So the lathe has many ways for things to move. And I'm showing you right now, this piece is called the compound, right? Because it compounds onto the cross. This is the cross. The cross goes across the ways. These are called the ways. The ways are what this assembly, this whole assembly travels along. And that travel can be manual, or it can be powered by this long lead screw down here. So there's a little mechanism right here that allows you to engage or disengage a half nut onto that lead screw. When it's engaged, of course, this will be power driven. When disengaged, it will stop. And that should sound familiar to anybody that does record cutting. Because a lathe is a lathe, is a lathe, is a lathe, is a lathe, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so now I'm manipulating the cross. What would be really super handy is for me to open up the jaws put the other one in here using the taper that's here, and then check, to see that this tool is where it should be. And what I mean by that is that the tip of this tool should come to the same point as the tip of this center. So these things, the dead ones, the ones that don't move, are really primarily used to make sure that you're checking to see that your tool is set up right. So, as long as your lathe is not damaged, these two guys should be in line. And also too, as long as you've set this to perpendicular. So there's a little gauge rule down there. You can also use things like, I've got a manual one upstairs, and this is like a digital. So this can be used to check or set the angle of the compound. If you want to do facing work, you want to make sure that it's coming at that work exactly perpendicular. If you want to create a taper in something, right, then you're going to have to make this thing travel on an angle. And so what I mean by that is you would set the compound on an angle, you would fix this guy in place. So right here, I've got an additional screw that allows me to sort of lock this guy in place. I can put it some out to an another thing really quick to make that I have to make sure that my jibs or gibs, some people pronounce them differently, are adjusted to make sure that they're not loose. Nothing should be loose. Doesn't feel too loose right now, but once you get going, yeah, actually they feel okay. So maybe I don't have to do that. I'm lucky. I must have done that recently and not used the lathe a lot, because if you use it and there are pressures applied, these things loosen up, So, and you're working, you're cranking it a lot, they loosen up. So you have to make sure that they're equally applying attention equally to this thing that's in there. I will a jib or gib essentially looks like this. This is one, in fact. So this goes into there, and these screws attach, and this other side mates with a dovetail, and that's what applies this pressure that sort of governs not only the tension that you feel when you're turning this, but also whether this feels loose or not, which again, it's not. I don't feel it, and I also don't hear it making noise when I'm moving it. So if that is loose, well, definitely you're going, any facing operation is going to be doing it unevenly, or at worst case scenario at a you're going to be doing a taper. But I mean, definitely you're going to get an uneven surface because this thing's chattering around. If you want really accurate diameter all the way from wherever you're starting to wherever you're finishing a facing operation, you want definitely everything to be nice and tight. Okay, well, I mean, I haven't done this for a little while. I shouldn't say that. I have machined. I have not made these coils for a little while, so I'm a little rusty on that. With any lathe that's powered, before you turn it on, always make sure that you turn the RPM dial for the spindle to 0. Okay, and also make sure that anything is clear of the chucks, right, the teeth right here, because let's say I had this, way over here. Well, if I turned it on, it could slam into that tool. It could cause damage to all sorts of things. Not only the tool holder, the ways can get dented that way. And then, again, if you have dented ways, you're not going to be able to make a nice, accurate cut across something. You will remove material in an uneven fashion linearly. All right, so on my lathe, I replaced the spindle bearings. I modified the tailstock and added this DRO to it, so that was a big pain in the butt. Can't remember what else. So the gears, I changed out gears on the inside to make them a bit better, and like a bunch of other little things, like some screws and stuff to better versions of them, and like, some quick So if you need to do things like threading or whatnot, if you want to change the speed of the travel of this guy in relation to the speed of the spindle, you have to change out gears, and so you have to open up the back. These are quick release screws that just make that easier to do. Oh, and I guess I should say this. Yeah, happy holidays to everybody. You know, clearly I'm a bachelor, so I just do whatever all the time. Doesn't matter. So here I am working in my garage on Christmas Day. So these are the wheels, or excuse me, the sprockets, the gears that go into the housing there that do the reduction, the speed reduction. So again, make sure that your spindle's all the way to 0, and then you can press the green button. Mine has the RPM readout right here, so that's what that is. So if I, for instance, start this guy turning, you can see the RPM has changed. If I unlock the tailstock and move it out of the way and lock it down over here, move this out of the way, and start it moving again, and engage the half nut, you can see this guy's traveling, and it's smoothly traveling, right? You can watch the crank, and it's smoothly working. So that's what we want, of course. Some grease on my crank wheel. This little guy down here I added just to collect chip as I'm machining, so it doesn't just get all over the tracks. Sort of works. It could be better, probably. I have notes on dimensions. So there's that. I've got bar stock of the type of plastic that I use for this. So this is 15.8887, somewhere around that. Right. Oh, if you guys can see, I don't know. So what the Presto bobbins are 15.2 or 15.3, somewhere around there. We're going to do 15.2. And these are for different things. Like I have a different one of these, which is a 4-jaw. So that's what this is for the 4-jaw chuck. 4-jaw chucks are for things that are like square, or things that are in irregular shape, or something that you want to turn and put a hole in, but not exactly in the center. So you can move that thing off to the side, and then you drill into, you know, what is the center of this, but that might be offset on the parts. So you can put holes into something kind of wherever you want using a 4-jaw chuck. I'll be right back. I gotta grab something. Are always handy. So I use a combination of these blue microfiber rags as well as some of these shop towels. And where is my guy? Looking for my apron. Yeah, again, I haven't really done this for a little while. Let's been a minute since I've done some machining. It's been a long minute since I've machined these in particular. Oops. Actually, I had previously done something wherein I had to overshoot. You can see, so there's a hole, and then I cut off the end of it, and that was the part that I needed. So I'm just going to continue on this end. And so let's do some math real quick. I want to make like more than I need, so I'll do like maybe 4 of these. The coils themselves, the bobbins should be about 3.2 millimeters thick, right? So the other thing that you need to consider is, so to make these, I use a tool like this. It's what's called a parting or a slotting tool. And in fact, we're going to use it for both. We're going to use it to make the slots in this guy where we're going to wind the enamel wire. We're also, that's another thing too. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Everybody out there, I just made a big mistake. You should never leave one of these, just leave it in there, right? So I'm talking to you guys, I should have taken it out, because if you accidentally turn that on, that'll come flying out. It could come flying out at your face. So another thing too, to be careful of is if you're adjusting these chucks, always make sure, pull on each one, right? If you've made adjustments and you are very, you're at the edge at which these will hold on. So you're trying to hold on to a very large part, the largest part that you can with that chuck. Be very careful to check each one of these before you apply power, because these can also shoot out. And if these shoot out, man, that I wouldn't even want to think about what that would be like. Anyway, now that we got the safety out of the way, so this tool we're going to use to make the grooves where the wire goes in, we're also going to use to cut each one of the bobbins off as we create them. This tool has a width to it, right? So let's go ahead and measure it. I know what it is, but I'm just going to, so it's, for chits and giggles, it's 1.55 about. So 1.55, we need to account for that when we go ahead and either want to make a channel of a certain width, or when what I'm about to do is estimate how much I need to stick out. So if it's going to be 3.2 for each one of these times 4, right? That would be 12.8. And then we have to account for slices, right? So we're going to have a slice to get the 1 off, a slice to get the 2 off, a slice to get the 3 off, a slice to get the 4 off. So that would be 4 slices. 4 slices times 1.55, right? So we're going to say that this is going to be, let's call it like 6.2, I think it is. 6.2 plus the 12.8, right? So that's going to be about 19. So I'm not going to include this crap area, so I'm going to come out at least that much. Now I'm going to take way more than that just to be on the safe side. In case there's something screwed up, I don't rechuck. 19 is bare, but I'm probably going to something like 28 or something like that. So this does not have to be precise, but that gives you an idea as to the kinds of things you think about when you're trying to set this material. Okay, work in a lathe is what you are using tooling in order to remove material from. So that's what the lathing process is. You turn some piece of work, you apply a tool to it, and you remove material in some way or another. There's a variety of different operations that you can do. So what I'm doing right now is, as I'm tightening the chuck, I'm making sure that I turn the rod. And if I do that in just the right way, it sort of helps it settle in centered. Right? Now, for this stuff, it doesn't matter because I'm not going to be doing operations, taking it off and rechucking it. So I only have one axis that I'm dealing with for every operation. And I'm going to be facing it down enough that even if this is off slightly, it won't matter because the end result will be, perfectly true to this guy. It would matter if I wasn't taking enough material off or something along those lines. But like I said, or if I'm trying to flip the part, that would be problematic. It's not so much so with this. However, right. Also, too, I mean, these don't have to be perfect, man. They really don't. They need to be close and they need to be accurate, but they don't have to be like, like your final master work of art in life or anything. So this is a gauge feeler. And what's going to happen is it's going to show us the run out, right? So if I actually have it go, and it's best to measure run out sort of as far out as you plan to be, right? Because if you're measuring run out close up to where that work is being held, and also to don't do this, don't any of you do this. I can do this because I'm good. I've done this a lot, so I put my finger by the chuck. Don't you guys do that. I also removed, I don't know where it's even at anymore, but I removed the safety cover that is supposed to be right there because it just gets in the way all the friggin' time. So this thing should be covering that. If you're new to lathing, keep that on your lathe. If you're very well seasoned at doing this, yeah, you can, it's up to you, If that thing were moving very quickly, I would not put my finger anywhere near it. It's because it's moving so slowly right now that it's not going to do anything to me that I don't care. If that were moving any faster, I would not put my finger or my hand or anything close to that. Again, it's only because it's moving so slowly. So the tick marks on this guy are, I'm trying to remember, this is, which one is this? This is 0.001 inch. So each one of those tick marks is 0.001 inch. And it's drifting about 2. So again, for this particular operation, I don't really care, but I mean, I can show you, process is essentially like this. With a 4-jaw chuck, you can do this very accurately. With a 3-jaw chuck and all of them are moving at the same time, it's kind of tough. You have to kind of reposition everything every time. But right now, you can see I'm turning it in a way that I'm watching, when this thing goes like this, right? That means when it's turning this way, that means it's going up. And so right now, that means that the work is cocked it this way the most. And so if I tighten it down right here a bit, hypothetically, that should help to minimize it a little bit, which it did a little. But again, you really need a 4-jaw chuck to kind of do that sort of thing. So that helped a little bit. You can see it's now moving about only maybe 1 or 1.5 of those guys instead of a full 2-stroke. So again, that's good enough, I'm okay with that sort of run out for what we're going to be doing right now. Okay. I'm also just going to check, because sometimes this guy gets a little out of true, which I feel like it is right now. So, this is a quick release block itself, so what the tool mounts in, and just visually I was noticing it looked a little off. So there's a variety of ways to set this up perfect. I don't have the time to do that right now on camera, so I'm just sort of, I'm gonna wing it a bit. I'm going by the feel of my finger on the edge, where the edge of this guy meets the edge of this guy. And I'm also going by looking at it visually, and it looks pretty good to me. But I mean, you can use T-squares of all different sizes. You can use this guy like I had out before. You can use, if the two actually meet flush, which it doesn't on this side, but I think it does sort of on this side. You could use any precision piece of metal to butt up against there and do it that way. But it has to be a precision surface, otherwise, what's the point? Those are all just the sizes that I need for various stuff on here, so that's why I have them separated. Oh, I'm going to need this, of course. So we will be checking the diameter. We said it was 15.88, and we need 15.2, so that would be a difference of 0.68. 0.68 divided by 2, because, you know, you come in, but this thing sort of, whenever you're cutting deep, you always divide by 2, and then you will end up with the diameter that you want. So instead of 0.68, it's going to be 0.34, and I'm going to come in a bit more gently than that. So first thing I'm going to do is just cut the end of that off. Actually, I do want to mess with this a little bit more, sorry. Now, the stuff doesn't really need a lot of lubricant per se. It's nice to use a little. I've got this stuff in here is this stuff, Viper's Venom. And I've also got another spray bottle, which is something that contains a much more, less thick, more thin white oil, and then of course your regular 3-in-1, you know, plenty of that around. And then for things like if you want to use different varying grains of sandpaper, going from maybe coarse down to very fine. So for instance, you know, so I have pretty much everything, you know, in between 60 and 400 that you can get. And if you use sandpaper going down in grain size, you will end up with, and also WD-40, something very, very slippery. You will end up with almost a mirror surface. Like you can make a mirror surface on aluminum doing that just with sandpaper and WD-40. You can also polish the surface of a part that you've machined. You can then polish that surface in the same manner on your mini lathe. You got to make sure that you are careful about cleanup on your ways, because you don't want any of the fine grain sand to get on there. But or as you are using this stuff, you know, some oil with the grit will fly off. So you got to cover your ways, and then after it's all over, clean the whole thing real good. But you can do some light surfacing like that. Anyway, so I'm just making sure everything's not gonna kill me if I start this. Is basically the deal there. I'll try to keep camera from getting oil all over it too. So right now you can see that, or maybe you can't, but I'm manually going at a speed at which this white material is coming off nicely, right? If I go too fast, it's going to make a weird noise, and it's not going to come off like that. If I go too slow, then you know, the material won't come off in a single piece nice like that sometimes or whatever. So the point I'm trying to make is, in machining, there are two things that are very important, and those two things are speed and feed. The speed at which you are turning the work, and the feed rate at which you are applying the tool. And if you get either of those wrong, you will end up with, you know, a messed up part. So I didn't go quite deep enough here. So I just turned this crank a little bit to go a little bit deeper now. And we're gonna go again. So I'm just putting a little dot of this stuff directly on the tool. Cool. That, I think, almost good enough. All right. Now, I want to start with a completely flush surface here, so that I can do the center tap, and that tap will be the only depression on that face. And sort of, because I'm doing this live, I'm gonna mess it up. Not mess it up, but I should just go deep and say F it. So that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, now I've got a flat surface over there. So when I use the center tap, it's not going to be sort of falling into some existing hole. It's going to be a brand new hole. So I'm going to actually go over this one more time. Oops. Just lightly to kind of get a really nice surface. Enough. I'm not going to fret about it anymore. So this is the material that's come off. You can see when I took the original chunk off, this is that disc, right? So if you need to make a washer, that's how you make a washer, you know? Boom, I now have a nice little plastic washer. I do keep stuff like that because things are handy, you know? I don't like to throw away everything, but I will, this stuff gets tossed, of course. I just learn to deal with it, but yeah. All right. So the hole that goes in there, that will go in there is 4.5, I think. Or 4.7. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, either would be fine. You know, so I'm going to start with the center tap that's appropriately sized for that sort of hole. I have a drill chuck that does the same thing as the live center, so that could go in there, and that would actually turn. I have ones that do not turn, right? So this is an example of one that does not turn. I've got ones that can hold other types of tools, and then I've got one that you can tighten without a key, right? So it's keyless. Should I do that one? Why not? I need to do the keyed. Keyed is nice because keyless gets tight, but it's nothing tighter than actually using a key. And if you're doing an operation that has a lot, this thing's running really fast and the work is large, then there's a lot of forces involved, and so it's typically better to just use the keyed one in that circumstance. But because this is plastic and I'm not going really fast, and it's 15 millimeter diameter, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. With tapers too, you should never turn a taper. You want to just push it in. Turning it will ruin both tapers, the male and the reciprocal female. So don't do that. Get your compound out of the way. Right. sometimes it's nice to put a little oil, because when you're sliding this thing back and forth a lot, it's just handier for it to slide easier, of course. So, and what I'm going to make sure is this thing is not doing this, right? So when I push this up against the work, I push down right where the locking mechanism is, because that makes sure that it's flush with the ways. And then I use this guy in back to lock it down. So now it's completely locked right there. And then I'm going to back off a little bit. So when this starts, it's not, the two are not actually coupling. There we go. So it jumped a little when it started, so that's bothersome to me, but it's okay because the resulting hole is going to be what we need. So, sorry. So getting it out of the way, I just locked it down, right? You can, that's why okay. So what's going on here is the taper for this thing has worn. I forgot, and that's why I shouldn't have used it. I've been using this guy lately because that taper is new. So let's just switch out to this guy. I don't need to use this anymore. So clean your tool after using it. Always clean everything. You know, I could drill the hole all the way through now. I could do it later. It doesn't particularly matter per se. I choose to just do it right now. Sometimes the order of operations does make a big difference, so you have to sometimes do things in particular order. In this case, it doesn't matter so much, but I may as well just bang out this hole. I think this is the one I've been using. So again, I'm sort of turning this thing as I'm starting to bite down on it. I really would like to get a new lathe, though. This guy's just exceeded its functionality. So you can see this came out nice, the hole has started nice. If you don't center tap, then your hole won't start nice like that, and your drill bit's going to be dancing all around and it won't be centered. So kind of important. Also, it's actually better for tapping. It's better to use something a little bit slipperier than the Fight for Venom. There is actual legitimate tapping fluids that you can get. Oh, that's another thing too. I forgot to do this. So because I'm doing this on live stream, I'm a little distracted. Before you want to start to use a tool going into the work that way, you should really clamp down on the sleeve first. So I forgot to do that as I'm talking to you. So oops. Also, you're going to need to increase your spindle speed as the deeper you go. And then you always want to clear your chip. Because if you're just pushing chip up against there, it's not the best thing. It will cause the hole to be off, inaccurate. Swing a nut. And what you heard rubbing, that's the chip. You know, it's a chip that's stuck on the drill bit. It's rubbing against the wall. So I think that should probably be the length that we need. You can always take off more later if we have to. I'll go just a little bit deeper, why not? Okay. So if I had the wrong speed and feed, this tool would probably be really hot. Also, too, the edges would wear a lot quicker than if you use it appropriately. Oops. Always clean your tooling. Okay, so now we have that out of the way. We can actually do the facing operation. As I said before, we're going to need to take off 0.34, but we'll probably do like 0.33 and then take measurements and come in, you know, pretty gently at that point. Just for giggles. Or is this stuff not even? Huh, interesting. Okay, so I measured one end of this stuff and it was like 15.88. The other end is about 15.96. So 15.96 minus 15.2 would be 0.76 divided by 2 would be 0.38. So yeah, again, we're going to come in about 0.3 something or other and then go in gently. So how do we know when we're 0.3 in, right? Well, what we're going to do right now is get this tool set up. And I'm going to blow some of this crap out of here. You can sort of get a feel on where the edge is to get this thing so that it hits that face, keep some pressure on it, and then back off on the cross until it moves that way. You do it slowly enough. So that is now really close to where the edge is. And if I move this, you can see it's actually taking some material off. So it is a little bit deep. So I keep backing off until I'm not gonna, remove material anymore. And let's just go forward. Okay. So I'm pretty well there. I'm going to come back out, and now I'm fairly zeroed, right? So it doesn't have to be perfect at this point because I will take some off and get a nice machined surface and then take a good measurement. But that is a very good way to sort of get close to 0 on this part. So once I've done that, I'm actually going to 0 my DRO. If you have manual dials, you would 0 that out manually at this point, and that would be 0. So now, if I want to come in 0.3, whatever, I just take passes on this until I reach that measurement. So you have to engage the half nut. I'm going to come in and do maybe, I don't know, like 0.8 at a time or something, 0.1. I think that will probably be reasonable. And then also we do want a little salami spit. Around 600 or so, you know, RPM is fine. Maybe a little slower. I mean, for your initial passes, it doesn't really matter. You definitely want to take your final passes slow. You also definitely don't want to run your tool into the chuck, so stop it before that happens, you know? Don't ruin your tooling or your chuck or your ways or your cross or your compound. Disengage it before it's going to hit that thing, right? So now I'm going to come in. I'm coming into 0.2 right now. 202. Now this is 720 RPM, and you can see, and here it's coming off very nicely. But again, that will change as your diameter changes. After this pass, I'm going to take a reading and see where we're at. Excuse me, everybody, while you look at my back. All right, we're reading 15.55 about. So 15.55. We want 15.2. Difference would be 0.35, right? Divided by 2. Would be 0.1725. So that's what we're going to go in from here. I could 0 it at this point, or I could just add in my head. I choose to 0 it, so I'm going to come in 0.1725. I'm actually going to do that in 2 passes here. Also going to do it slowly. Anything precision must be done slow. It's just the nature of the game. Anybody that says that they can do it fast is lying to you. Even with, you know, even with a real lathe, like with like a very expensive CNC machine or whatever, like precision takes time. So I disengaged and I was able to do this, and we're not hearing anything, right? So that means that the cut was actually nice and straight. If this thing is loose and that cut's not nice and straight, when you wheel it that way, you're going to hear it cutting material. If that happens, adjust your jibs because they're out of adjustment. This is about right now 15.42 or 4.1. 0.105 at this point. So I think that this should be the final pass here. It will either be perfect or a little bit less, and I honestly don't care which. It's 400 RPM right now. Yeah, lubricant helps to make a clean cut, also helps to keep the tool cool, develop less heat for longer operations. It's important. Heat means a rougher cut, means shitty work, if not rejected work, which means also, consequently, you're gonna ruin your tool more quickly by using it incorrectly. We're at like 15.15-ish or so. It's fine. I don't care. These don't actually have, I mean, like, A, they don't have to be perfect. B, I can redo them. I'm doing this as a live stream to show everybody how it's done. These don't have to be perfect. That's not the point of today. Today's point is to show you how I do it. You know, if I'm doing it without being distracted, of course, I'm going to do a lot better job. So now we've got our hole, right? So that's what the armature has, these two arms basically that stick out, right? One of them is tapped, and that's what the cutting stylus goes into, and it's tapped two ways. It's tapped this way, the stylus goes in, it's tapped another way, so the locking screw can actually lock it into place. And then the other arm is just all steel. So, you know, you got your two arms. Each one of those arms goes into the hole that's in one of the two coils. The two coils are inverted polarity. And that's, if they're not inverted polarity, that system won't work. It's super important. Otherwise, you won't get the flux and balance correctly, and the armature won't shift. So I just put this cutting tool on. I am going to push this forward enough such that like the body of the tool pretty much is hitting this. So that's a solid hit. It's not bending the end edge, right? It's a solid hit. Solid, man. We're solid. If anybody knows Fight Club. Don't worry about it, sir. We're solid. So now I just locked the cross into place. I am now pulling this back, and I know that pretty much that's where the tip of this guy is, you know, but just in case, and probably it's going to take some off right now because this tool is not 100% perpendicular. So even just doing that, I am going to probably take a little bit off. That's okay, whatever. I now have a nice flush surface with this tool remounted. Everything's all good. And if I hit 0 on this DRO, which is not coming on, this one's a bit finicky and it's deciding not to work today. Come on, you. Great. That's kind of important to have working. Is it the battery? So the little connectors that actually touch the battery are messed up inside of this TRO, and I just have not taken the time to repair it. And anyways, and it's awesome that it's doing that right now. It's fantastic. I gotta imagine that the battery's probably dead. Seems that way to me. Can I just grab this guy? Yeah. Kind of need both. This might derail things a little bit. Something for a second. Oops. So the trick that I do with this is I have some copper tape. And you can buy a roll of copper tape at the hardware store, and I use that to make this guy a little bit thicker so it actually makes contact. Oops. Otherwise, it doesn't really do a good job of making contact. There we go. Hey. Yeah, battery was just dead. Oh, and also the contacts are messed up. So both. But everybody just learned a really good trick there. So if you've got one of those sort of disc batteries and you've got that sort of pressure type contact and it doesn't really make good contact anymore, use a little piece of copper tape on it and it works great. Okay, so what I am going to do is set that to 0 now, and I now have 0 there. I'm also going to back this off, move this forward now, and come forward and stop when I hit the work. Okay, so now I'm zeroed there. Oh, great, this guy is fritzing out. Yeah, if you reset, that doesn't help me. Oh, now it's not gonna do it all. Ugh. Wait, hold on a sec. Where are you? Piece on both sides, so let's grab the other piece. Oops. I might have to go grab my roll because these are not coming off very nicely. Okay, that's better. Alright, so this one's fine, so now I can do this sort of thing again. Come in until it stops, it's hard stop, and 0 it and say good enough, okay. So now I'm gonna come forward, the tool itself is, and actually I'm gonna do this again. The tool itself is 1.55, right? Generally speaking, you want the walls of these things to be about 0.5 or 0.6, because otherwise they'll deform when you roll them. So if I'm going to say about 0.6 for each wall, that's 1.2. And if I am saying that these things should be 3.2 total, but also let's account for a little bit of error, that's going to be just under 2 millimeters, that I'm going to be slotting out in between those two walls. And if this thing is 1.55, then I'm going to do one of them, and then I'm going to come over about 0.4 something or other, maybe 0.44 or something. and that will give me the 2mm slot. So that's why you need to know the width of this. Also too, right now, it's flush with the edge. So if I want to make a wall right here that's 0.6, I got to come in the width of the tool, which is 155, right? And then another 0.6 on top of that. So that's going to be 2.15. Good enough. So now when I come in and channel this thing, it will give me an outer wall that's about 0.6 thick. Now I have to consider how deep I can go. So if this thing is 15 to about, and I put a hole in it that's about 4.7, you know, if you subtract those two amounts, so it's gonna be like, this is where I'm gonna grab my calculator out and do the math, because I've got to divide by 2 as well. So, oops, 15.2 minus 4.7, 10.5 divided by 2 equals 5.25. So that's the maximum that you could go in, and then you would hit the hole. It's 5.25. Yeah, so now memory sort of is kicking in. I think I usually go about 4.7 deep, and that leaves enough meat so it doesn't just fall apart. You forget these things, you know? Okay, now I'm gonna go that way, and I'm gonna zero out, and I'm gonna go the 0.4-ish, 0.44 something in that way. I'm gonna take off that little bit of material all the way down to the same diameter. So going in 4.7 again. And for those watching at home, we're at about 590 for spindle speed. Okay, so now now I've got the slot that I want. I just need to part this off from the work and actually obtain my part. So I'm gonna zero it at this point, and I'm gonna say, okay, that thing's 1.55. I want my 0.6 wall, so I'm gonna, you know, come in about 2.15, right? And that will allow me to slice that thing off. And so now that, you know, you've done one of these, you've got the pattern in your head. As a machinist, it would just be sort of plug and chug at this point. This is the final operation. Once I do this, cut all the way through, we're gonna have what we want. Again, don't you guys ever do that, okay? Do as I say, not as I do. So this is pretty much it, right? I think I am going to make the walls a bit thinner than this, because they are a little fat and they're just taking up space. So there's that. I'm also going to check You know, did I get close to the width that I want? So a lot of times too, you know, your first one is not going to be exactly right. This is pretty well what I want. You know, 3.2, 3.3 is about where you need these to be. So that's like 3.26. It's probably actually a little bit thinner because I'm measuring some flare at the edge. So once I take a razor blade and completely flush that out, which, you know, you would do something along these lines, or an X-Acto, or one of these guys, you know. Once you shave that stuff off, you'll get a proper reading. So don't trust your readings until you actually shave off any of that crap. Another tool that you can use for this, which is specifically for this type of a thing, are these. These are called deburring tools. Okay, so you would take it and you would insert it in that hole and you would run it around the edge, and that will I'll put a little chamfer in the edge. It will make that edge not sharp. And it will also allow you to get a good measurement now because it will be a flush, flat surface on the outside. So those are handy. The only other operation that I need to do with these are to bring them over to my drill press and put a very small hole very close to the wall of this. And that's where you put your enamel wire in to and pull it through. And that's how you start to wind your coil. So this guy needs just a little tiny hole, and that's it. So I'm gonna, you know, finish doing these. I'm gonna stop the live stream at this point, and I'm gonna finish up. I'm gonna make these, finish these, and then in the next live stream, I will either be cleaning parts or I'll be winding coils onto these bobbins. But this is the process for making these, other than actually putting the little hole in. So I hope everybody enjoyed. I'm going to finish this work and then clean up, because of course you never leave anything dirty. You always clean up and leave your workspace as you found it, which should be clean to begin with. So cool. Thank you for anybody that watched, and I'm gonna take this and post it up to YouTube. So thank you for anybody that watches after the fact. Please subscribe to me on YouTube, yeah, be well. Please take care of yourselves, and I will see you all later.